all about just enjoying what you have, but also knowing what you have. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome in. I am going to talk a little bit today about, I just want to show you another way to use Notion, another thing you can track or record in Notion. This is not a productivity video in terms of you accomplishing 1,000 different goals all at once, or figuring out where you are on the path to those goals. But part of what I love about Notion and what I love to do in Notion is track certain things, create databases that show me what I have in certain categories, what books I want to read, or what books are part of a series, or what books I have read. Same thing with fountain pens, fountain pen inks. I've shown how I track drawings, and I'm continuing to do that and to evolve that. And part of that has morphed over into these two different categories, fountain pens and fountain pen inks. And so I thought I would just go through today what this looks like and how you can do it with your own Notion really simply. It's not a complicated thing to do. There's nothing fancy about it, but sometimes you just need to see what someone else is doing in order to think about how you might do it yourself. So I've got mine started, and these are not all inks I own. I spend a lot of time looking at reviews, things like Mountain of Inks, or pulling up different inks and watching videos of other people reviewing them. I have been searching for certain shades and colors, and I've done a lot of research, done a lot of looking at different inks. And, I also follow Reddit groups and Facebook groups where they talk about inks all the time. So I'm always seeing amazing inks that I would really like to have or someday try. And so I thought I should just start keeping a list, not only of what I have, but what I might want. And that doesn't mean that I need to go out and find every ink in the world and put it on this list, but I thought it would make sense to just start putting these in. And I watched one video where they did a whole bunch of Pilot Iroshizuku. And so I started out, I just went ahead and put those in. Some of them I have, some of them I don't, and I haven't started populating this as much with the things I already have. But I set this one up in a specific way with some of the things I thought I might want to track. And I have hooked my fountain pen inks database here to my drawing database so that when I enter my daily drawing, I can click through and just select the ink. So I was already just marking what color it was and what specific ink it was, but I can now actually hook it together with the actual database. So if you wanted to do this yourself, and so for those of you who already use Notion, this is all basic things, beginner, introductory Notion use. But if you've never used it and you're thinking, I would like to set something like that up, then I'm going to show you how you can think it through and do it yourself. So the first thing you would want to do in your Notion is create a page, and I created a table here on this page, and it's a blank table. And what categories you use is really up to you, and you can add to them later, but it's always a good idea to, as you make it, start thinking through, well, what would I want to track or keep a note about? And what kinds of things should I record? How do I differentiate my inks in my head? So the first one is the name. Obviously, you're going to have the name. And then the next one, which makes a lot of sense, is the color family. And I left that. That could be a select. It could be that it's just blue or it's just green, or it could be a multi-select, which will allow you to have more than one option, which for me, sometimes an ink is in between. It might be sort of red and it might be sort of burgundy, or it might be red and it might be purple, or it might be purple and pink. And so I leave it as a multi-select, and that way I can do multiple colors as I choose. What else would you want to track? You would want to track the brand. So that would be a single select because it's probably just going to be a single category. And these don't usually need to be quite so big. I'm going to just squeeze them all together a little bit here for us. What else would you want to track? I wanted to know if I own it or not. And that could just be a checkbox. So I could just say, do I own it? And then for each ink, I could just check it off, or I'm going to put it in a second way. And I'm just going to say own 2 for right now, just to show you a different way, because you might want to know, and this could be a select or a multi-select. You'd have to decide based on your own use. It could be, do I have a bottle? Or do I own it just in a sample? Now, if it was a single select, it's only going to let me pick one. So you would want to choose if you wanted to do both. But I thought it might be interesting to know if I had a bottle, basically. That wouldn't be the best name for this. I have it as own on mine because I just am tracking whether I have a bottle or a sample or nothing. But we're going to fill one in a minute. So what else? Let's just call this ink 1. We'll just say ink 1. The color family will say it's red. So we're going to create red. And because it created it just in an arbitrary color, let's just change it so that red is red. And we will say this is brand X. So, or brand Z. So we'll create brand Z. We're going to say we own it. We're going to say we just have a sample of this one. What else should we track? We might want to track properties. And those might have multiple properties. And those might be things like sheening, might be a sheening ink. It could be a shimmer ink. It could be a waterproof ink. So there are properties, it could be lubricated, if you think of the Noodler's Eel series. So there are different properties, and you can change these to be the colors that you want, and you can move them around so that they're in the order, and you can make however many you need. And after this first one, you can take them off. We'll just say that this hypothetical ink we're putting in is lubricated. Now let's change that. Let's do shimmer. So we've got properties. And your properties might include something like wet or dry. For me, I ended up calling that issues because I definitely have issues when my ink is dry. So that could actually be a property for you. It could be a feature. You could like inks that are dry, or it may be that inks that are dry work best for you in certain pens. So whether or not you need 2 categories, properties and issues, would really depend on you and how you use Notion and how you want to record your inks. Something like feathering, I can't imagine anybody who wants feathering. So for me, that would be an issue. So for me, it makes sense to have 2 categories: properties, which is good, and issues, which are not necessarily good. So then I might want observations, things I notice as I use it, as I use a certain ink. I might want to know whether I have swatched the ink, and that could be a checkbox, especially if you keep swatch cards, or if you swatch in a journal or a sketchbook. If you keep any kind of swatching inventory, you might want to know, yes, I actually went ahead and swatched this one. And when you fill these things in, then you'll be able to create different views that allow you to just pull up your red inks, or just pull up your swatches, or just pull up inks that are shimmer, or just pull up the inks that you want. You could have a category here that says, I want it. It's on my short list. If you swatched it, you might want to have a swatch image. We can call that one swatch. Since we called that swatched, it'll allow us both. So we can just make that a media. We can add an image. We can upload our own. And sometimes, because I do a lot of research, like I said, I might have an external swatch image of an ink I don't have yet. You could put that in as URL and just point to it, or you could just save an image or a screenshot and upload that so that you have it. One of the big things you probably want is a rating. And I'm going to put that in as a select, and you'd probably want to do something clever with a bunch of stars or something, for example. It would be better if I had one just to copy, but let's just put stars in here. So that would be 5. And copy it, and then we're going to create. So we're going to create 5, and we can create 4. Oops. Have to say create. We can create a 4 option. We can create a 3 option. And then you could go back and change the colors of these. and a 2 option, and you guessed it, a 1 option. So now we have a rating system. We can say, well, this was a good ink. You might want all these to be the same color. Let's make them, oh, I don't know. Will pink show up behind them? Yeah, not great. Not great. What about yellow? Let's just put yellow behind our stars. I'm going to put yellow behind all my stars. Once you set it up the first time, then it's all ready for you, but it takes a little bit of time to customize how you want these to work, and you can always change them later. You might have a little image of ink bottles here that you're able to put in. Definitely can do this in different ways, and you could change this, for example, to just indicate that that's your star rating. So you could definitely do something like that. In addition to observations, I might have a notes category in mine just in case I have some additional notes. And then I have the relational database to my drawing database. So if I went through and put in a real ink, for example, I was swatching some inks today and I swatched Noodler's Cactus Fruit Eel, which is a magenta. And obviously I don't want that to be blue, so I am going to change that to be, I'm going to put it on the purple side. I'm going to put it on the pink side. Put it pink. So it's a magenta and it's Noodlers. So I need to create Noodlers. And I do now own this. And I do now own it in a bottle. And it is a lubricated ink because it is the Eel series. My issue so far is it's very dry. I'm so unhappy. It's very dry. I'm hoping this is a pen issue. And I swatched it today, and once I pull the photos, I can put that in. Not going to give it a star rating yet until I do this some more. So we got this own category, and the ones we don't own, we've got it checked, but I might want to know, do I want it? It could be even that I want to know how much I want it. Is it like in my top 10? Let's just say that, top 10 wish list. So you could check it off there if it was an ink you really wanted. You can drag these around, so I can drag it over like this. Put this down here, observation notes, and you might put your star rating. I don't know where you might put that. You might put it at the very beginning. Depends on you. But you can go through then and just enter your inks. I swatched Syrah today. It is a burgundy. It is diamine. And once you've entered a bunch of these brands, they will be there ready for you. I do own this one, and I do have a bottle. Oops, didn't select that. And I did swatch it. I really like this ink actually. And so for example, I've got Yamabudo, which is a magenta. You might think it's a purple burgundy. I don't know. These inks are sort of all over the place and in between. I mean, I might need a grape category. I think a lot of them are kind of grape. And it is a Pilot Iroshizuku. I always have to stop and think about how to spell it. Zuku. Don't know why I get so tongue-tied with that one. And I need to create it because I don't have it in this category, and I own it. And this would be confusing because top 10 might make me think it is my top 10. So I'm just going to change that to wish list on this sample. So wish list. I have this in a bottle. It was a gift. Thank you to the person who gave that to me. And I love this ink. So I've swatched it, yes, and I can go ahead and say this is definitely a 5-star ink for me. And then I would go through. I have a whole bunch of them here. I've got deep magenta, which is a magenta. It is diamine. And I do own it. I'm keyboard entering some of these. So bottle. And I did swatch it. And that's basically how you can do it. You can set your own database up this way. Mine, I have a bunch more inks in here, but definitely not all the ones that I want to put in here. If I wanted to add some more, for example, from a top 10 list to somewhere, I might add, and these are inks I don't have, so I might want to add nitrogen, which is an organic studios, and I don't even have any of their inks in yet. So I could add that. It's a purple blue color. I don't own it, so I'm not quite sure which it is, so I might list it as both. Might want to add some of the really popular ones like Emerald of Chivor. See, people always say Emerald of Chicken. And that's a Jacques Urban. And again, that's one of those sort of multicolored, I don't know if it's green or turquoise, I'm not positive. Somewhere in between. Teal, maybe, I don't know. And Diamine Oxblood. And you don't have to, some of them, I just call them by their full name like that. You can list it however you want. So Diamine, and that is, oh, my table is sorted. You saw that just switch because my table is currently sorted. I should change that. That is a really deep red. Really deep red. Let's see. Let's go ahead and switch the sort. Just cancel the sort. And so I might add Aurora Borealis, which is also a diamine. And let's see, I don't think I've added some of the ones I actually have. So like I have Red Dragon. I just started adding all these in. But I thought some of you might be interested because it's a super good way to keep track of things. And so, for example, I see this short list here is my list of things that I might want to buy or that I'm really interested in or considering, what I called wish list in this one over here. So you can just start filling it out and adding them in this way and then setting up your views for different things. You can also set up filters. So if you wanted to have a brand diamine, for example, I might just create another table, a view, and then just go here and set a filter for brand, where the brand is, and then from my drop down list, diamine. And then that will just pull up these and I can look at them. Aurora Borealis, again, that's one of those colors, green, blue, not positive since I don't have it. It's a greeny blue color, greeny turquoise color. I don't know. You'll probably correct me because I don't have it and I don't have it in front of me. I think it's a green teal color. I'm going to put turquoise. I don't think it's turquoise though, but I can adjust that. I don't own it either. So let's see. Seems like diamine tends to be what I look at. And see, I entered some of these, as you can see, with the full name, and I didn't have to do that because diamine's here as a brand. If you wanted to set up another view, you could do a gallery view. And since I don't have any swatches in, that is going to be very uninteresting. But once you start putting your swatches in, that would be a really nice one. You might actually want to call that your swatches. And then you could, none of these have a swatch, but you could definitely set it so that you used, instead of the page content, you would want to use your swatch or external swatch, and then they would all show up. You might want to list the color family here, and you might want to list the brand. And these are all things you can toggle on and off depending on what you want to show up. And you could make them smaller so that they are all together a little differently. And as I said, if you had swatch cards uploaded, this would be beautiful. And this does not have a filter on it, but you could also add a filter so that your swatch gallery was filtered. And you could also set up a Kanban board by color. So let's just do that by color. And for our group by, we want to use color family. And that would let you see in your database what you have listed in these colors. So that's great. You could also filter it to what you own. So if you turned your filter on for only the inks you own, and in this case, because I don't have a checkbox on this table, I would need to have two things. It could be it's a bottle, or it could be that it is a sample. Then I would see the things come up that I own. So in magenta, I've clearly got several, and I guess you might want to also turn on what it is you own. So bottle or sample so that you could tell. And you might want to turn your brand on. And then if you turned other features on, they would all show up. So you can see that I haven't entered things I own in these other families yet. So it's just a really nice way. And you can move these around. You can move these, you can relocate them so that they're grouped differently. If I go back to my default table, this is all. I usually just call that all. So I hope that that might be something that you want to try. I will show separately a similar kind of setup with pins. I'm entering the pins that I have, as well as some of the pins that I might be looking at or considering. I see a lot of people talk about certain pins that I'm curious about, and I thought if I started tracking them in my Notion, I would have some notes about them so that when I'm considering something later, I can refer to those to see what people have said or what they've suggested or what different reviews have been. So that's it. This is a more populated table of inks, and this is the one we just started, and we started customizing it in different ways. And some of these things I might add to my own now, but it gives you a really good look at how easy it is to set up a table like this. If you have a lot of ink, you can have a lot of fun cataloging your ink in Notion. You can do this with other things you have, markers, pencils, pens, anything. My mother has been doing it with yarn, and I'm going to show how that works too, because we set up quite an extensive database for her to track yarn and knitting projects, very similar to how this works. So I hope it gives you some ideas and helps you better organize your own pens or inks or both. It's all about just enjoying what you have, but also knowing what you have. The better you track it and the time you take to organize it and put the information in, it all pays off because then you have that information at your fingertips. And I like that feeling, that organized feeling of knowing what I have. Makes it also easier to figure out what you want. So happy drawing, happy writing, happy creating. I'll be back.